So what does IM really stand for? Many people say it stands for International Master, but those people are incorrect. What it actually stands for is International Bozo. Today we're going to be looking at a 14-move game, 99% accuracy, where I beat an IM using the Sicilian defense. Let's get into the game. He opens up with pawn to d4. What opening is this? This is the Smith Mora gambit. Whenever there's a pawn on d4 and you play the Sicilian, you take that pawn. And here he goes knight to f3. So it's a little bit of a move order trick, but I'm happy with the move order trick, because if he takes the pawn on d4 with the knight, it just transposes into whatever Sicilian you wanted to play anyway. The Sicilian I wanted to play is the con, but he does offer up the gambit fully and goes pawn to c3. Now, you might be like, Balkan Dad, why are you playing the Sicilian defense? You don't usually play that. This is correct, but I'm teaching one of my students. He's switching from the Caro to the Sicilian, so I figured I'd get some practice games that I could show him. And I was like, hey, student, what do you want to do in this position? Do you want to push or do you want to take? The main line is taking, and he said, I want to take. I want to be up the pawn. What I used to do is I used to go pawn to d3. A weird looking move, but let me explain it. The point of pawn to d3 is you give the pawn back, but this knight cannot develop to c3. The reason this line is not so popular is because white plays pawn to c4, and it kind of turns into a Maroczy bind, which people don't like playing against. So, fair statement, take the pawn, because it's what my student wanted to do, and I wanted to get a model game in that position. Now, how do you evaluate this? Well, black is up a pawn, but white is up both in development and both in open lines, right? He has the open c-file that he's going to swing his rook over to and use it to his advantage. Pawn to a6, essentially just pre-moving pawn to b5, right? Because you cannot develop your light squared bishop over on the king side because of this barricade, right? When you make one bishop good, you make the other bishop bad. So you need to take some time making the other bishop good. It's kind of vice versa of the dragon, where you fianchetto the dark squared bishop, and then you have a good light squared bishop that develops probably on the king side. But he heard that I wanted to pre-move b5, so he went a4. A move. He's basically setting up his own type of Maroczy bind where I can't play d5 or b5, he just doesn't have a c-pawn. He doesn't have a c-pawn, so he goes bishop to c4. Right, kind of anti-positional, because when you think about it, I mean, Smith Mora players do love their bishop on c4, but it's actually not to aim at f7. The point of this bishop is to stop the move pawn to d5. So it's kind of just stopping black from gaining space. And we get the move knight to e7. The point of knight to e7 is to route it over to g6, where it'll stop the bishop from developing to f4. We get castles, knight g6, and bishop to g5. What should you do against this move? Well, you can move the queen, but I go bishop e7. Another time I go bishop e7 is when they have a rook on e1, and you're playing the con, and they love to do this knight d5 thing. Typically, if you take that knight and enter that check position, it's not so comfortable. So you just leave the knight on d5 and go bishop e7. People that play the con know exactly what I'm talking about. And hopefully people who don't play the con can envision that. In this position, he goes h4. That is out of line. That is out of pocket. What did he miss? There's a tactic here. Try to find it. How many attackers do we have on h4? We actually have 3. Because the battery x-rays to h4 and the knight attacks h4. So you take the pawn with the knight. He takes the bishop. Of course, you take the bishop. He takes the knight. You take the knight. How many points did we just win? We won 1 point of material, a pawn, but we're already up a pawn, so now we're up 2 pawns. Quick math. They do say blunders come in pairs. It's a true statement. We get queen to f3. How do you punish this move? Well, look at the way these pieces are coordinated. Uncoordinated, should I say. Knight to e5, jumping into the center of the board, threatening a fork. The queen guards the bishop and find the winning move. Knight to g4, my opponent resigns. He cannot stop checkmate, except for giving up a queen, and luckily, he resigned. 14-move win against an international bozo. Hope you guys enjoyed. There will be 2 videos today. See you guys next time. Peace.